La da 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 dum da dum da dum da dum da dum da dum. Yeah, yeah. Ooh yeah. Ooh sugar yeah. Ooh yeah. Ooh sugar yeah. Ooh no. Ooh yeah. No, that's not right. Oh, it doesn't matter now. Oh. Okay. La da 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 dum da dum dum da dum da dum da dum. Yeah, yeah. Ooh yeah. Ooh sugar yeah. Ooh yeah. Ooh sugar yeah. Ooh no. Ooh yeah. No, that's not right. Oh, it doesn't matter now. Yeah, yeah. Ooh yeah. Ooh sugar yeah. Ooh yeah. Ooh sugar yeah. Ooh. Ooh. No, that's not right. Oh, it doesn't matter. Stop this now. Where's the live? Can we go live? Okay. Now it's on our blog. Now it's on our blog. Stop this now. Where's the live? Can we go live? Okay. Okay, we're gonna talk about things. Yeah. Okay, that's good. How does that sound? How does that sound? How does that sound? How does that sound? Okay. Okay, we're gonna talk about things. Yeah. Okay, that's good. How does that sound? How does that sound? How does that sound? How does that sound?
Yeah, you want to try?
Wow, it's fantastic. Oh, hello, hello.
You have to put it down.
But I don't think.
That was live. We're already live.
We are live.
Yeah.
Do you see us?
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
I would suggest if there are not many people listening there, that you don't use the microphone.
Good.
The sound is better. We can just say something with.
Hello. Yes, I'm thinking that. Yeah. Hello.
And you're thinking
Palestina.
about it.
Palestina is really ah.
Okay. So now.
It's a great setting for an interview like that.
Now we go live. Let's see.
Hello.
I'll see you here.
But I don't think.
We're already live.
We are live.
Yeah.
Do you see us?
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
I would suggest if there are not many
Yeah, it's
people
better
listening
without.
there, that you don't use the
Because it's
microphone.
so glittery.
The sound is better. We can just say something with.
Hello. Yes.
Anyway,
I'm
crack this out,
thinking
but it's
that.
better without.
So yeah. Hello.
And you're thinking
Palestina.
yeah.
Palestina is really
I'm not sure about. Should we make the picture a little different?
So now.
great setting for an interview like that.
Yeah,
Now
we
these
go
are
live.
so important,
Hello.
no?
I'll see you here.
Let's put them over. Can you
But I
guide
don't
me?
think.
Now we're in feedback.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're in feedback. So now we're live.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is good. You can still see them, but they're not so. Yeah. Also, then you see the whole thingy there. A little bit more up. Klein beetje. A little bit down. A little bit more down, maybe. Yeah. I think it's better. Looks great, my dear.
You think now's the time for a breakfast?
Yes. It's good. Should we do a play here?
Yeah, let's eat
Like
something.
Virginia Woolf? No!
I don't know Virginia Woolf, what they say there. I can't remember.
Yeah. I'm going to Oops.
Can I sit on the bed?
Yes. I like to order. This is a good table. Do you want to sit here?
Yes, can I take a seat from there so then we can make a circle because I have only my handy for recording. So I think. Yeah. At this table. Yeah.
huge.
We thought maybe to use a mic, but for you it's not, because I thought maybe that some people want to listen.
Oh,
But
yes, the first design that I have to record.
you don't have.
I don't know. I make normally I make the interviews with my handy, so you have quite good quality.
Yeah.
But even you, it's
Yeah.
the space is not big.
No, it's just for the people, but we leave it. We thought maybe to if somebody
like
from
you.
here wants to listen.
Okay, but what happens if you're speaking in the micro? What happens with the recording?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, then it could also be
just like that. But I don't know.
but
Maybe
it would be nice
Okay.
also just to talk.
to talk like
Yeah,
without
I don't
this.
know, like why I don't know.
Are
Yeah.
you
For me, I
For
prefer that.
prefer
I don't-
without.
yeah. I mean, if that's
are you in the same way free to speak if you speak through the microphone?
No, I prefer not to speak in the
But
I
she
don't know, like
prefer
I
not
just
to.
want, I mean,
For me, it doesn't
I
matter.
think,
If somebody wants to listen, they can come here. No? Yeah. I can tell who's there. Yeah, I want to.
Okay. First, I explain you the concept, and then we can make a test recording test. So. And here, then you can see out. The concept, the demand I got from the people, from the UK, is that we are speaking about your experience in the last war, because you were staying on the other side of the conflict parties. And the concept is that we are speaking more personal and more about art, and not about political analysis. And so yes, we can do it in the end, but at first the concept is more to focus on personal experiences and experiences with artwork. Because
I mean, I'm actually not an artist, I'm a photographer. So,
Yeah.
and I work in journalism,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
obviously I was in Gaza because of my work.
Yeah.
But of course we can speak about
Yeah.
my personal experience, but I'm not an artist.
it's not a problem.
I also was not in Israel as an artist, but as a family member. So,
But even
It's-
now personal experience, it's always.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I have a question for you, is painting or
Of course.
So
it's
that
just
is-
like to make sure that I
take it-
wasn't in
take it
Gaza
as
to
your
make
stage,
any
yeah.
artwork, because that's my work. I'm a journalist, so I
no problem. If I'm asking you question of art, then it's your stage and you can correct it.
yeah, okay.
So every question is your stage.
Why you don't leave it to us?
she doesn't feel comfortable to
I mean,
talk.
I just thought it would be like an interview like this.
That's good. So
I was a photographer.
Recorded.
yeah, I'm recording. So yeah. So now I can test it.
Hey, darling. Just put it here so it smells really good.
Who's singing?
It's the privacy of everyone. But
You have your.
Somebody slept here
But this
last
one is
night?
very.
You?
Yes, it has.
I can imagine. You're like,
Office space, because it's really
yeah,
flying, so like
yeah,
it's huge space.
yeah. No?
Yeah, so I hope. So yeah, I think it's
There's a lot of echo there.
Probably. But these ones are good at first.
yeah. Normally the quality has to be good.
Yeah, they would just be echoing.
If I ask you something, I ask you or I ask you. But if you want to answer to the other position spontaneously, do it. Don't hesitate and do it so that I give you the stage and then you can also speak. Okay. First, let us clarify the geographic answer. Where have you been?
In Gaza?
Yes.
Yeah.
In Gaza and in the whole area or in a particular part?
No, I mean Gaza is very small. I was in the areas where we could go. There would be some areas that would be just go sometimes. Like in the south, it was quite difficult to go. I couldn't go to. I mean, to Rafah, I just went like once actually, because they were bombing a lot in Rafah, so we wouldn't go there. And then some otherwise I would like be all over. But we would avoid also like because they started the ground invasion. So the eastern part was kind of inaccessible. But otherwise I was in the whole street, which is a very small place.
Yeah,
extremely small.
Yeah. How many kilometers?
I think it's 8 long and 4.5. You should check it. 4.5, no? Wide?
Oh, I don't think.
Yeah, no, people are always, if you are in the north or if you're in the center, you say to the fixers, like, I would like to go to Rafah. Like, that's so far. And then I think it's like a 20-minute drive, maybe 30 minutes. On sort of not so good road.
You were where?
I was south of Tel Aviv in a town called Gedera, not far from Ashdod. So also not so far from Gaza.
How many kilometers?
It's like an hour drive on good roads.
So,
Israeli
100,
roads.
100 kilometers or 50?
Maybe like 100. Yeah.
100 kilometers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and why did you stay in Gaza at the time?
Well, I'm a journalist, so I've been based in Jerusalem for like 2.5 years. And then, so I was in Gaza the last time there was a war in 2012. And then this time when it started happening, I was in Iran, and then I was going to see my sister in Berlin. And then there was just this moment that I decided to go to Gaza instead of going to Sweden. Because I felt like after, it was actually like a bit of a decision thing, because last time it happened, it lasted like 6 days, I think. So already when I came to Berlin, it had been going for like a few days. So I was talking to this friend, a colleague of mine, and we were like, should we go, should we not go? And I was like, maybe not, because it's going to end. Because there's always this risk when you're a freelancer, that to go there, then maybe you don't have any work, or maybe it will just like end. So yeah, so I went there because I absolutely wanted to see what was happening.
And why did you go in Israel?
I was visiting my family. I didn't expect to be caught by war when I was there. So yeah, it just happened, and it was a strange experience.
It was the first time that you were during a wartime in Israel.
First time that the war became so prominent, that because somehow in the last 20 years they managed to keep it out of the center sphere of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really on the border. So actually you don't feel that there's tension. I was in Israel already when there was tensions in different areas, but you just hear about it. And this time it was really, they managed to make it more clear.
And you stayed the whole time?
No. I was there 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
But then you were captured by the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah. How are the impacts of this anxiety and danger and emotional stress and helplessness also and pain on the humans in such situation, on the people in your environment and also on you personally?
I think you should start first because
I think that's more for you. Because it's interesting because if you're in Gaza, the war is so prominent, like you're in the war and people are dying, and in Israel it's so much less like that.
Yes, that's why I think
you would have the statistics. It's ridiculous. Because I was when I came actually that when I flew in, I had a little assignment in Tel Aviv that night, and then that was the first time I was like, ooh, it's a little bit like it was very quiet, and you heard the sirens, and you were like a bit walking like this, but then it's like has nothing to do with it. But it would be isn't the question for her?
No. I mean, why I think you should start because in Israel the hysteria around the situation is so overrated, blown up, and very mental, very psychological, and much less physical.
Yeah.
So almost for me, I feel there is no right for it to be that powerful or so dominant.
Because in Gaza you have like almost everyone has a psychological problem also because of the war.
Yes. I mean, for me, it would be also interesting to hear how you like in this coming.
But you mean me or the people around, right?
Both.
Whatever you think, whatever comes.
Like what's kind of.
So the question again was.
What is the impact on you, this danger and emotional stress, all this stress while being in a war? What is the impact on people? What is the impact on yourself too?
For me, I mean, it's a bit. I mean, there was a point when because we would always go and photograph all these morgues and dead children and wounded children. And then at a point, it just feels extremely useless because you see the impact it has. It's just like on the wrong people. You know, this is a war that's between Israel and Hamas, and then everyone who gets hurt is just like in this war there was like a lot of kids, so that was sort of what struck me. All these kids and all these like parents who sort of lost their children, and it's just like useless death.
And the impact on yourself? How do you deal with it?
For me, since I take pictures of it, it's very strange when I do it because you can be in this, for example, like in the morgue, and you have people collecting body parts, and it's very warm and it smells a lot, bad smells. But then once you're inside, because everything is so packed and there's so much people, and you have to sort of make your way and try to get your picture. No? So then at the point you get to, I think it's like a little auto-defense because you just focus on like trying to actually get a picture where you don't have all these disturbing elements. And so then in that way you sort of cut away the things that I probably wouldn't have been there without my camera. I mean, that would have been more difficult, but since I was there doing something, then the mind sort of keeps busy with something else. Mm-hmm. And then maybe afterwards you can feel like, at the point after like a couple of weeks, I got like really tired. And I suppose it's because you see a lot of horrible things, but then you don't really have so much time either. You're working a lot, so I think you just push them like behind, and you're also in company. I wasn't alone. I was with my colleagues that are also good friends. So that helps a lot that you actually have this. It's not that I go and take pictures of this and then I go to like a quiet home in the night. You're always like there and you hear it. But something else that I thought was quite unnerving is like that when we were sleeping, we'd always hear these like the bombings, no, at night, and sometimes they would be closer and sometimes they would be further away. But then, so sometimes when they were closer, it was really quite intense. But then when they were further away, that was almost like a little bit scary because you wake up maybe at dawn and then you can hear it like far away. So then you know that I've been sleeping all night, and then you have all these people that probably have lost their homes and they got killed like in the ends, in the extremities of the strip, and that's quite terrible that you can actually just sleep.
So you are not really involved, but you are near enough.
I mean, I sleep in this bed and I sleep the whole night, but then they are sort of it's still.
I would like just to refer to that because what for me was so devastating is the fact that also in Israel this whole situation creates panic and also a lot with children, like running to shelters and hysterical mothers and a lot of people don't know what to do, like if to gather the children and run when there is a siren or to stay and hide, or so it generates a lot of this kind of fear.
Moments,
but meanwhile, you know that on the other side, the fear is mega much more, and that kids are not just afraid; they're just slaughtered.
Exactly.
So you are like in this, and it's like it's strange. It's like you can't justify that fear next to the other fear, but meanwhile you can't also ignore it.
No, because I mean they don't know what's going on. I mean they've never lived there, right? So anyone who would be a child in Israel, of course would be afraid, and of course a mother will protect the children.
But then those mothers become so defensive and aggressive and and also militant, because you want to protect. But
that's also the whole. Isn't that the whole like education and structure in Israel that like, the whole thing is protecting the country now?
Yeah.
You have this immense military machine.
But I want to continue with you said about protecting this try to protect. I suppose that you're both more on the left side and from the pacifist position. What happens with this political position in view of the danger of family members, of relatives, of people you love, of colleagues, of working partners? How do you handle this contradiction? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because for me all my family is there, and most of it is became quite right-wing. I don't know if to say that, but supporting the defense that Israel is proposing. And there's no way to talk. It becomes violent almost and very emotional. So there's no words, so you can, and even like in the public sphere, you can't express what you believe in, because people become really you're afraid also of your life. I mean, if I would really say what I think out in a bar, let's say, I would be attacked. I'm sure physically. Yeah. Somebody will attack me. I don't know who, but so you really feel in Israel trapped in your own head, and meanwhile there is this fear that also influences you, because so you don't know. I should be afraid here, but
it's very potent. I think, I mean, because there's a lot of, if you talk to a lot of people, it's always like Yeah, the wall is there because otherwise, I mean, we would be and it's always that's a bit the same on both sides now.
Yeah, like there was like all these waves in this war, and suddenly they discovered the tunnels, and that's it. Then hell went loose. The tunnels. You see, they built tunnels to attack us, and everything was about these tunnels, and you cannot say anything because also you don't really know what's going on, and it's like.
No, but it is And then they always come, like I had this discussion with the taxi driver last time I left. He's like, oh, so I'm left wing. Can we talk about this? I was like, okay, let's talk about this. And then in the end, he was like asking me, so how do you think we should destroy the tunnel? I don't really believe in this. Certainly, like not the way they did it, but it's just weird to come into this like.
But for you, sir, how do you handle this conflict between the political position and perhaps also the desire, the tribe to protect the people you love, where you see that people die, and in your situation it's possible that it could happen, or the panic is here. So we have
for me, I
try
couldn't really do anything
to protect people, but then we have our political position. Do you have any?
No, I don't feel
inner
that.
conflict with this?
No, I mean no, because I wouldn't be protecting anybody doing my work. That's like, how could I protect anyone? I can just like document what's happening, and because that's also a problem is also that you don't have really like I mean, it's a very bipolar media in Palestine and in Israel.
And I mean, being there and seeing all this horror and being just able to somehow report it, it's not, it's a strange position also, no? I mean, I don't know, I mean, for me just to be in Israel, I felt like I'm too sensitive already to be in this reality, because I mean, while other people just take it much simpler, accepting it. But I came back to Europe for 2 weeks. I felt really invaded by this. Yeah, I was traumatized.
Yeah, nice.
But very mentally. I don't know. Yeah, like.
Because it's also your country.
Yeah, maybe then it becomes more personal. I don't know, but somehow I think if I was in Gaza, I don't know what I would do.
No, but it's also hard
myself.
because when you're in Gaza, you're sort of like, I mean, I always have the choice to leave if I want to, right?
I don't know, you get a little bit of music, you see?
We prefer to.
No, because it's not recording. It's not enough. Did you feel any hate? Do you feel any hate?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree at all with the way. I mean, I don't like how Israel was doing this. The way, because if they want to destroy the tunnels, I don't think they should have gone. And there's too, because Israel, like, what makes me really angry is that Israel has such a good military equipment. There's nothing to do with what Hamas has got, you know. Because also, I mean, the rockets that come into Israel, it's more like if they would actually hit something, it seems more like a by chance a little bit, not completely, but since Israel has this extremely good, they have drones, they can see everything, they can like see, they can see if it's a man or woman, or I mean, they can see everything. So why does it have to be so many like civilians killed? Because they shouldn't go after the civilians. They should go after. I mean, they should have with all this technique. They could have gone. I mean, I am not in military, but I suppose they could have found a better way without killing so much people. Because that makes me really angry. That like, I don't see there's any excuse for that. I can understand that they don't want the tunnels, but then maybe they could. I don't know how, but like maybe they could have done it in a different way. Because then in the end they would bomb. They would have shelters, and then they would bomb shelters where people would be living. They would destroy houses of people, so people would go and seek refuge in schools, and then they will bomb the school, because then they're saying yes, because Hamas was shooting rockets from, because Hamas have a lot of rocket launching places in like everywhere. But I mean, I don't think there's any excuse to have all these.
And how is the relation between the citizens and the Hamas and the leadership? Or is there? Can you make this difference?
I mean, if there's a big support for Hamas?
Yeah, or yeah, how is it? How is the Hamas supported or not supported?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who are more from Fatah, and
Really?
then it's divided.
Okay.
And I think many people are a bit, because if you ask them what you think about Hamas, some people wouldn't really answer because they would also be
afraid.
because they're actually closed. I mean, they're closed inside. They wouldn't really do anything about it, right? So they are actually stuck with Hamas. But I think with this war, some people got kind of fed up. But many people wouldn't say that. And I think there's a lot of fear in that too.
Yeah.
Because Hamas is sort of everywhere. It's like you have all the offices of the Hamas is ruining everything. So.
Yeah.
And did you feel any hate?
A lot. All the time. Yeah. Yeah. It was not good for me. I mean, it's because the problem. Yeah, that there is the government that you can project your disagreement towards, but it's the neighbors, it's a friend of my mother, it's my brother, it's around you, and you try to be very calm or not to say too much, but then suddenly just me, I cannot keep myself, so so suddenly I would attack a friend of my mother, like really big time, and yeah, and it creates in the end, I didn't want to see anybody. I was just at home waiting for my flight to arrive, because I would just, yeah.
But what about your friends, like your old friends?
Most of my friends left Israel.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually don't
Why
know.
did they leave Israel?
Many reasons, but also, yeah, I think everyone who's think a bit more left-wing or open-minded can't stay there. Like there's a whole community in Berlin, for example, of this kind of refugee, psychological refugee, or political, I don't know.
Okay. You live in Belgium?
I live in Belgium in Europe for a long time. So, but yeah, on the other hand, I really thought, okay, I have to come back because everybody's deserting this place, and I have to do something. I have to.
It's such a beautiful place.
And it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's an amazing country. It's so small. You can drive like across 5 hours. And it's beautiful. And then just this hatred everywhere.
Yes, I mean because the idea was to travel with my mother for 2 weeks in Israel. That's why I went there. It's because she's going on pension, so we did travel a bit, and then you're really in this beautiful place, and suddenly you see this rocket coming. You know, it's like totally wood and water, and a rocket coming, and everybody like, what shall we do? Where should we go? And everybody go inside the water. What the fuck? It's hysteria everywhere. And this contrast between this real beautiful and could be like heavenly sort of everybody together from all religion and types, and then this kind of hatred.
It's really weird.
It's mental. I think the whole Israel, the whole country went nuts, really crazy. People are mentally defected.
Because you have this mantra all the time. No?
Yeah,
we have to
for
defend ourselves.
Years.
We are not like. If we don't kill them, they will kill us. Kind of thing, no?
And then it projected to the whole world. You know, Europe is also actually against, and you know.
Now there's this big conspiracy theory, not really conspiracy theory, but many people keep on saying, you don't know what's happening in Europe. You will see what happens in Europe, because there's lots of refugees coming there, and they're Muslims, and then you will see.
Yeah, totally.
Like lots of like really right wing or religious people, they say that.
And
But actually, Gaza is like that too. It could be so beautiful because you have the coast. It's by the coast, no? Because you have the West Bank. It has nothing. It's just stone and everything. And then you come to Gaza, and you have this beautiful coast. I mean, I couldn't swim there, or I could have like swim all dressed, and you can hardly fish because the fishermen can only fish this much. And you have this like kind of paradise that they completely destroyed, and it's quite painful. You know?
So the first question. Following you is, did you recognize a kind of normality within these war days, or these war daily days?
I would just see it when there was ceasefires. They would have some ceasefires, like brief ones, 24 hours, 12 hours. And then everything would like come back to life and people go out shopping. And then there would be like small moments, maybe in some afternoons they would have like some parts of the center, because the center, Gaza City, was sort of like safe. So then you would have like easy markets and things. Yes. Otherwise it would be pretty empty.
And how is the emotional atmosphere of the people when they wake out of this horror and they have small hours of normality? How is the atmosphere? Or
I mean, you just see that they want that, everyone just wants like real life to come back to normal. You're tired of being afraid.
Do you have enough to buy? There is enough food? There is
not
enough
really. I mean, the
bars, restaurants?
Sorry?
There is enough bar, restaurants, buy the food?
I mean, in Gaza there is not a lot of bars. You have like falafel place. Falafel places, tea things, shisha things. No, but I mean, the food would sort of, but you would have like some, when there were ceasefires, you would get like provisions. But things would, I mean, it would be like kind of empty in the supermarket. But and many supermarkets would be closed most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that nothing really hits the ground. I mean, it was really just happening above you, the whole thing. Some did, but very rare. So there is like 5-10 minutes of hiding wherever you, I mean, even in the roads, people drive their car, suddenly there is an alarm, everybody stop on the highway, go under a tree, hide under a tree for 5 minutes, and then go back to the car. And go, so that was constantly happening, and almost you feel like, it's annoying now, you know, it's like, come on, yes. So nothing really stopped. I think the whole country, and people are so trained to live like that, you know. And that's what I mean, that the normality is it's a level of madness.
What is the impact of this fatalistic habit?
On the, I think it makes people really hard, very driven, very ambitious. I mean, that's not ambition. Maybe it's good, but the survival is the only thing, and doesn't matter in which way you do it. So it's economy, for example, is prosperous in Israel, and people are really making a lot of business going around. It makes you really ignore any softness. I don't know. Make people hard.
I reacted on that when I came to Israel, like in the beginning, how everyone was like, because I'm from Sweden, and in Sweden you don't have this at all, you have this to the opposite, which is bad. You have this, like, you would never tell your child, like, you could, or you would say, home, you know, to, like, don't be proud of anything you do. Yeah. And then when I came to Israel, I was really shocked, because everyone was like this, how they were like, if you go to a bar and have a drink, people like selling themselves to you and be like, oh, we're just having a conversation, like, why would you have to prove that you're so good and great and everything? That's sort of, I think it's helpful though in many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's very...
Yeah. Yeah, I think it turned very materialistic also, Israel. I know it
but I think that's everywhere.
But Israel extremely much. I mean, if I compare it to Europe, it's really...
In what way?
Because the situation is, there's constantly this pressure. People are really, they hold on to stuff, to this kind of, again, like the success story, the big house, the car, it's more like, it's very directed on. That's what I see. I mean, I come from an era where it was very socialistic country, you know, that the whole idea of communal, and now it's totally capitalist, neoliberal minded, really about get there.
Getting
You have
there,
to
having
get,
the biggest
yes,
car.
yes. That's for me was the biggest change in this.
Because how long
Shocking.
were you gone?
Not
Or you-
20 years. I'm 20.
But you go back?
Yes, but suddenly I understood. Wow, this became a totally
But you're talking about like
capitalist.
your actually area?
The whole thing, the whole, yeah.
You in Gaza, you didn't tell it, but you in Gaza, what did you not spoken about with the people?
About what?
About what it was not possible to speak about.
That you wouldn't get any answers, you mean?
What is a
It's
table? What was a
possible.
table?
A
As your
taboo,
table
yeah.
was to speak about your real political position and.
I mean, they wouldn't really answer if you asked them a political question. They wouldn't really answer it. Most of the time.
They wouldn't.
Most of the time.
And
If I say like, you know, like whose fault, like who, if you want like a political solution, obviously you're not going to get it.
But people, they can say if somebody is not following to Hamas.
Yeah, but
for
they,
instance,
as I
is
said
it,
before, it's not everybody wants to answer that. You can talk to them and you can sort of tell that they are a bit fed up with Hamas, generally speaking, but they wouldn't say like it's bad. I mean, they wouldn't say that most of the time. Because I mean, they are stuck inside. You have to like consider that they are also stuck inside, even if they would be against. Obviously, like all the. Obviously, most people would say that the fault is of Israel, but if some people would also think it's the fault of Hamas, they wouldn't really say that so much.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that could be risky. They were actually. I was doing some portraits of kids as a job also, and I had them. I mean, that's just. No, that's already done, like kids, and I just had this idea that I wanted them to draw that this has nothing to do with this, but it was quite interesting. I asked them to draw like their vision of Gaza in the future, and then there were a few guys that would be like painting. There was one who painted this thing, and I said, "What is that?" That's an airplane. That's a drone with a missile. And it's like I also want us to have like what they have. Things like that. I was like, great. So they would be doing that, but then you'd also have this thing that the same like thing that they would like draw their vision of Gaza in the future, and they would have like, oh, that's nice. You would have the sea, houses, and then you like bird, butterfly, trees, and then like, but this, that's a missile hitting my aunt in the house. I'm like, they wouldn't really. You would clearly ask them to draw something positive, but then you had it all. They would just be like. Okay, this is a missile hitting my aunt's house, and this is a drone, and they would have like different, you know, like this is tank rocket, and this is, they would just have all this, and most of them did that actually.
What was the imagination or the notions of the other side? You were staying in Gaza at the time. What kind of imaginations or notions you have had about the other side? Yes.
I mean, I did pass by Israel twice.
Yes, I know that you know Israel, but I imagine if you're staying in such situation, there's also the notion and the imagination change. And I don't know, perhaps not.
I don't really understand the question though.
If you're staying in Gaza, so you have a war, and then you have a border, and you have two sides, and you're on the one side. It's a very intense experience. What kind of image you produce it about the other side? So it's.
I mean, I don't think I would have any. I would talk to people who were there. I mean, I don't think. I mean, because I've been living there for some time, so I think I wasn't there, but I think I had quite a clear idea of what was going on. Also through the people I was talking to. Friends and colleagues who were working on the other side, and also there's some people who were just know who just tell me what they were feeling.
Did you have any contact with the army, Israeli army?
They would tell us sometimes because we were not staying in a hotel. But I was saying like that you have this hotel stretch here, like by the sea. We were staying like across from it in a building where you have NGOs normally. So they would sometimes call us and say, tonight you should not go out, or tonight it would be better if you would go to this hotel here. Because it was sort of where we stayed, they are like, sometimes we would have these Hamas rockets going out, and they would be like very close. So then when that happened at dusk, you were like, then you know that they will bomb a lot around there. And the port is really close to where we lived. And they would bomb that a few times. So then you have this like, so that's when we would hear from them, mostly when they would be like, but not very often. We would actually call them also to, because there was a few nights that were really kind of hard, and then we would like call them, do you know where you're? So just like to make sure that they never...
because they can really target their...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they would know that it was for the journalists.
Yeah, and this way they will never hit.
Yeah, exactly.
And the foreigners, they were living in special communities, or you could live elsewhere.
I mean, no, that's, I mean, they said, the army said that we should, they actually recommend, like the night before the ground invasion started, they said like that everyone should stay in this particular hotel, so everyone like, actually went there. But I mean, there's no space, and we were sort of sleeping. I actually slept with a friend. But my other friends, they were like cramming like 6 people in a room, and me, you can't really, there was no way to do that. So they would just, but they were saying like these places we can guarantee. These places.
So then it's your decision. You
exactly.
You hold the order.
But ours was sort of very close to the guaranteed places, and we called them also.
There are a lot of foreigners there.
Yeah, lots.
Yeah,
many.
Journalists,
so
photographers.
Journalists. Also, the NGO workers would be actually not there. They don't have a safety contract. Like they don't have insurance for that. In war times, they can't be like all the UN and also the smaller NGOs. They're normally not there.
So they have no international help, or they have no help through NGOs.
I mean, they have the local NGO. I mean, they have like, for example, UNICEF and things. They have their local workers. They have the local offices working there, and you have Médecins Sans Frontières. Like you have, but most of the people they would come after, or like during the ceasefires, because they just can't get permit to get inside. Also, they don't let them. But also, like what they would be doing it would be useless if they would just be sitting in the office, right? They work more like on the field, so they don't really come.
Your notions about the other side.
Mine, I don't know. I think in Israel, just people demonize the other side. This is not human. It's a non-human, and they don't feel affiliated or empathy because these are monsters. And for me, I don't see the difference between settlement in Israel and Gaza. I just couldn't. That was for me also another thing I discovered, that I don't affiliate anymore with Israel as mine, as part of my identity, my territory. And anyhow, this notion is nuts. So that feeling was very strong, that when I see kids die, it's kids dying. It's not Arab or Jews and it's terrorizing you. It's horror. It's like you're crying and you see this and you know that you're in a territory that actually attack them. But it's not, you are not belonging to that, you belong to the whole thing. But this feeling was really very strong. And how really people don't see that those kids are part of their identity, life, territory. It's weird how border becomes such a perception border.
You did never feel anxiety about the tunnels.
You know, you hear so many things in Israel that you are like, what are they telling us? That this has also become something very, I don't know, abstract. It's like, so you, in a way, for me it was a very poetic also idea to see that Israel is controlling the sky, you know, meanwhile they are totally controlling the underworld. Yeah, it becomes.
It's like being in the street, like
Totally.
you are like on the surface, and
Yes.
under you have tunnels from Hamas, and then over you have
Okay,
Israel,
yeah.
it's everything. So yeah. No, it often feels like that. That you just stand like in the evening, you stand like in the window, and be like, and then you have, because then the drones are really loud in the evening, or you hear them more, and you have this like impression that you're just this little piece in the game, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the big problem is that they don't know each other, because nobody, like Israelis, they can't go to Gaza anymore, and very few people from Gaza can go to Israel, and if they do, it's very limited, like to go to the hospital or things like that, you know. So they don't know each other, so they think, and when you don't know your neighbor, it just becomes this thing. Like if sometimes you have, like if something hits them, people are just like Israel, Israel, and of course, but like Israel, what is that? It's this big evil thing, and like also like Hamas, it's just these terrorists. They just take it down to being terrorists, and I don't know like how many times it happened. I have these like ultra-Orthodox friends that I were sort of they're musicians, and I've been photographing them for a long time. But they, I mean, I can't speak to them at a time like that. I really can't speak to them because they have this. They can just like last 2 years ago, this guy would start like posting things on my Facebook account, like these like propaganda pictures of dead children. You just like how can because he would just find anything, and you have these horrible things. I don't know who does that, but you can have like pictures of a wounded child and all these writings. This is what they do. This is terrorism, and they would also do. They just do this complete generalization. So then they go and find pictures of ISIS in Syria and saying, but look what they're doing. They're the same. And they just put like all the Muslims on the same pot. It doesn't really matter any kind of propaganda they can find. It's just like,
Well, just complexity. We'll speak later. Later too. But I think it's perhaps more in your experience. What is the impact on people, or you are working also with youth people, youth, and what is the impact on people? They have to decide to be killed or to kill other people. So this permanent danger. So you have to. I have to be prepared. What happened with people? They are, or with young people. They grow up in this situation that okay, it's the more intense point, but the most intense point. But you have to be able to kill the other, or then you will be killed by the other. What do it is with for instance, young people, or children,
with children, I think it's quite horrible because when you have the minute you have this like celebrations, any kind of celebrations, you always have these kids with guns, or like if it's a toy gun or it's only toy guns. But then they're just like there was this thing also when there was the ceasefire. They had the celebrations on
ceasefire.
The final ceasefire.
Yeah.
Like
end of
the war.
Okay.
Then you had all this. Then everyone straight away comes out on the street and they like shooting with guns. And
really?
So that's a culture. I mean, normally in Gaza, if you have a funeral, they always have guns. They just like shoot there.
Even the girls?
No, the boys. Yeah. But then in the ceasefire, you have all these guns, just like shooting up, like celebrating, and little also like kids with guns. And there was this moment when I was like, there was this little group of people. There's so like a lot of people everywhere. And then so I just approached them, and then there was this like tiny little boy. He was like 3 maybe, and he was dressed like fully dressed as this Hamas fighter, or Fatah, like no Hamas, with the toy gun. And they had him make this like, when he crawl on the ground. But and like obviously it was his father like, yeah, do it, and he was like a little bit disturbed, but he was doing it. It's just the culture. So look at this.
So that the children imitate what the
I mean, I suppose it's just
adults are doing.
Yeah, and I suppose when you're a child, they see them as heroes or something, like big guys. It's also a sort of indoctrination, I suppose. Indoctrination. I mean, but I think that's even. I think that goes for all children. When you're a child, all boys want to be. The very stereotype.
Okay, let's change. Perhaps we can return after to the work. Okay, perhaps you can answer. You are an artist. You are artist or photographers or documentarists. With a political claim. And how does it make sense to continue with art production in such type of situation?
But I don't really see myself as an artist, as I
So,
said before. So as I said before, I was
perhaps you can answer
documenting.
As a documentarist.
But I mean that makes all the sense. No? That's why I would be there.
Okay.
If I cover a war, that's to document what's going on. That's my work. So the sense is actually to go.
The sense, the terrible situation is the sense that you go to make a documentation.
I mean, of course, I have to go to Gaza because it's very accessible to very few people, and then of course I have to go there too.
And do you think with that you somehow produce a certain different discourse, or do you enable something political to happen, or it's just?
No, I don't think it's impossible. It's possible in this sense because I don't think anyone will change. I don't know if you heard like this polemics also during the war that Israel was saying that journalists in the Gaza Strip were actually they were afraid that they couldn't show anything, and Hamas was like chasing them and threatening them to like not show these kinds of things. And in Gaza was kind of strange because you couldn't really show any because you wouldn't see the fighting is underground, right? Or out over our heads. So you like walking, the only thing you can maybe shoot was like outgoing rocket if you're lucky, you know. But I mean, you wouldn't really have. That's not what you can tell in Gaza. You don't see the combat because everything is underground. So you can just show the impact of the war. And I think that's important to show.
What could be the political impact of your documentation?
I mean, if I show what's going on in Gaza, that would raise awareness. But people already should know that. But I mean, then I have the possibility of showing what's going on. Then I don't think that because it's been such a long discussion, this political, and I don't really believe in the international. I mean, nothing really happens, right? In this area of the world, it's just been going on for so many years, and it's a bit like when Obama says that he will stop fighting in Syria, but nothing happened. It's been for like more than 3 years. I believe very little in this impact. You can show what goes on, but I really believe very little, unfortunately, in the impact of political change. Also, like look at James Foley, who was. I mean, now I'm doing this, going to talk about ISIS, but I mean, they were trying so long to get him free. Everybody knew where he was. They could have found him, but then it's just like in these political games. Again, it's just if it's not convenient for anybody on a bigger political game, nothing's going to happen. So journalism is there to inform, and if you can inform, like what I would like is if actually people, if we could change on a longer term, if we could change, because I feel like in Israel and Palestine there's a lot of problem with ignorance and that you don't know the other side and that you have this, because a lot of media in Israel is also like in Palestine, it's very, yes, it's not really, I mean, truths, but they wouldn't show everything and they would be very, and this should have to go, you know, if everyone would be more like, understand what's going on.
And you started to work with the handy.
I do Instagram.
So, yes, that you are more flexible and you just.
I mean, I was bring habits, no, and it's just. I mean, because you always have it, and then that's actually like a very good way to sort of more quicker. As if you tweet, and because it's so easy, you don't have to go back to the computer to like download a picture and then maybe retouch it a bit and then put it somewhere. This is just like sort of quick information. And it's good.
And how it's changed also your, how do you choose what you will take in picture, or you can
I mean, that's if I'm out working and I
intimacy also.
I mean, this one it's so small, so sometimes you can actually just snap pictures when nobody really, because everyone has, also like in Gaza, everyone has a phone. maybe not iPhones, but they have phones with the cameras, right? So sometimes it's a bit more discreet. But I mean, I wouldn't use only that. I always have my camera also. But
how is the specific
I think it's very liberating. I mean, it's more because sometimes it's. But it's great. It's a great tool because you can just instantly sort of show.
How it feels if you make a picture of a very terrible situation, people are suffering or injured. So, how it feels?
In Gaza, I don't know. I'm always amazed how people actually let you photograph those things. Because you come to, I mean, I would never have, if you photograph people before a funeral in their homes. It's just in their. I suppose it's some sort of desperation for them because they know that they want you sort of. For me, it's completely absurd to be in somebody's home and photograph someone who just lost their child or their husband or their mother or their wife. But I think it's completely for them. It's very. They even want you to be there because then they have the possibility of sort of getting some sort of. They will never get justice, I suppose, but I suppose they want you to.
So
to be there.
It's not hard to come in contact. So they really invite you to make pictures.
Yeah, but in these situations, it's very hectic. There's so much people. Also, it's not really about. It's all very fast. You ask. Normally, like you ask them by the mortgage, you can come and it's okay. But then sometimes I just think it's so weird to just go into people's homes and photograph and they're crying.
And how is the reaction of the people in such situation to be photographed?
So then okay with it. They're normally okay.
Yeah.
Of course, not all.
For you, make art in such a terrible situation.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, when I was in Israel, I thought to stop everything and go and make like a, because again, I think that maybe the only solution is to start educating generations of familiarity. People start to meet each other and somehow create a revolution of friendship between both sides. So maybe with all the art knowledge that I have, to go there and create a certain political art school or something like that. I would really like that's the only thing I should do now. In Palestine, Israel, like in the West Bank, that's maybe there are all kind of areas you can have something like that. It will incorporate both sides, people from both sides. But then I don't know. You come to Europe and you feel like how sane life is, in Europe, and how you belong to that already. It's like living here for so long, and it's you. I don't know if I'm able to give up that human standards that is achieved here in this continent since maybe the Second World War, and sacrifice my life to the arts within this danger zone. So for me, I translate that need to generate political art here with the parameters of here and which is softer. And still there's a lot of problematics, and there's also a lot of political shifts in the last years. So there's things to enable here, but it's easier or it's softer. Yeah.
And I also think that the impact you could have, for me, it just seems impossible over there to change it.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And see this.
Yeah.
This is this repetition of things being almost worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's really like a drop in the sea, or like Don Quixote.
And I think now with all the right wing moving to Israel, like religious right wing, it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah, I agree. I think anyone who can should leave this area.
Exactly.
Really.
And because also like when there's money involved now, if all these like, wealthy right-wing people come, then
Yeah.
that's it. Because there's no.
Yeah, I think the new thing will be this capitalist right-wing religious figures, and they're in the government already.
Yeah.
And this is like,
And
it's
there's-
really, it's too much. It's horror. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's horror actually. It's really sad.
yeah, because it's combined all, all right-wing fields in one, So,
But another part, if you're speaking about this concept of hospitality and to make familiar with the cell groups and all this, but even now also influenced by the war in Israel, spread up a new movement of anti-Semitism. How do you see yourself, or you situated yourself in this situation?
in this more global anti-Semitism.
Yeah, that it grew up at new, or it was just a new wave of anti-Semitic expressions. But how do you handle it with your
I don't know.
artist concept of familiarity, solidarity?
This anti-Semitism for me, it's not real. I mean, I think it was a kind of okay. In Brussels, next to my apartment, there was a Jewish museum, and 3 people got shot there recently. And apparently it's somebody from a kind of Islamic group. I don't know. So yeah, it's true that it's there, and the political tension in Israel also produced it. But I mean, I'm less scared of that than other right-wing tendencies that are happening in Europe today, that I think threaten my existence much more than, I don't know, some Arab fundamentalist who come and shoot me. That's, yeah.
So that's the left wing in Europe. So it's not only the anti-Semitism is spread out in Europe. It's also the the hate to the Muslims. It's also a big wave.
Yeah.
And otherwise you have more fundamentalistic movements also in Gaza.
Yeah.
And then it's one way is a political guerrilla. In otherwise it's also people are suppressed by these more fundamental movements. So how do you handle this complexity, or where do you see yourself within this complexity of a lot of contradictions?
I don't see myself. I mean, I don't really see myself a part of that.
You're not a part of it, but you're working within, or you're working with it. Or,
Yeah.
So.
To reformulate the question.
What?
Can you refer? I mean, because I think.
That's the environment where you're working is I think it's very complex. So in a way you have the hate on Muslims in Europe. So in our way you have these fundamentalistic movements. So ISI, funny group. So this is a contradiction, and the danger is that people are mixing all. So
of course, it's a big,
then in a way for some people is Hamas a political guerrilla, and for the other is it I think for more left modern Palestinians is Hamas not a good advice, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't think.
So you have a lot of contradictions and a lot of tensions between several groups.
Yeah, lots of similarities also, I think. A lot of similarities, like in the way of
But I don't know. I feel that. I mean, this whole area, this whole Middle East, North Africa, area is. I mean, it is in a big transition, and this transition is also very much directed by by Western forces. So, I mean, the whole ISIS and Hamas or Hezbollah or this whole, I see it as a very violent resisting movement towards a certain economic control that is very opaque, not transparent. And so I feel now we are in the middle of many forces, so it's not just a kind of Islamitic threat, it's all kind of global dynamism that somehow, yeah, as an artist, let's say, you try to sort of operate in between them, and I mean, and you can't influence anything just in your own local little surrounding. So, yeah, for me, it's not about starting to stigmatize who I'm afraid from, but to really try to see how in your own environment you can influence other ways of relating to one another, and maybe slowly spreading like a rhizome, and by that, resisting this kind of violent sort of occupation movement. So I think how the government of the States is also a very big terrorizing, I don't know, fundamental group. So it's that's also for me the difference between, in Israel they always say, yeah, but we don't sacrifice our kids, or we are not. Here there's education. We are nourishing the country. But actually it's next to the other side that, like, they always criticize Gaza of instead of creating more schools, they built tunnels. But excuse me, you sent every young person to the army. I mean, for 3 years you train them as soldiers. Okay, you give them education, but and the country is totally polarized. There's very rich, very poor. It's so there's other ways of
totally other concepts.
Yeah, but still, it's yeah. Well,
Did you see any hope that this vision will be realized?
Not so much.
Where you can see hope, not to despair.
in this area, or
Yes, in concern of this.
I just think maybe one day, but I think it will take a long time. I don't see very much.
Take a long time.
Yeah, and I think also in all this conflict, there's so much money involved, and there's actually, like I think in the case of Israel and Palestine, and also in Syria, there's so much money involved in dealing with weapons, and so it's actually for many people for many rich countries, it's actually more convenient to keep the conflict going on. So that's quite disturbing. I mean, so I think that makes it more difficult for it to end because it's more convenient for
I agree
countries.
that you cannot disconnect this conflict from the rest of the economical distribution.
So would cut the
and you really feel that if you follow the political development in Israel, you really feel solution would have been there a long time ago, really. And
those who like the problem is that they are quite similar, I think, the two parts in the way, and nobody wants to give an inch on anything. Like there's no.
But there were already attempts, and they're always sabotaged by some force. God knows. So I'm sure that there is a kind of economical sort of for that conflict to keep on escalating. Yeah, not too much. Don't kill them all, but every time just.
But it's not also it's just these economical relations worldwide and all these political interests. But what about the historical legacy? Both sides, they have so long time historical legacy. So all this pain and
they're very
and
like
so and
Yeah, but I think it's very much abused by those economical powers. I don't see it otherwise. I mean, the Holocaust is like, you say hello and the next word will be Holocaust. You know, it's so much milked, this concept of the Holocaust to justify this country.
And Nakba, it's the same with the Akba.
The Nakba.
The Nakba, sorry. So the Nakba is the same, that this kind of
well,
instrumentalization.
Not really, I would say.
I
think the Holocaust.
The Holocaust is also a bigger scale, and but the Nakba, I think, only in the recent years, Israel also acknowledged that there is a Nakba beside the liberation celebration of Israel, because it's on the same day. So Israel is celebrating the founding of the country, meanwhile they're celebrating the loss of their homes and lands. So I think that the idea of the Nakba, it needs to be manifested, because maybe they should, I was really not conscious growing up in Israel that actually there is a concept of Nakba in the same place my home is. You know, I grew up in a kibbutz, and around kibbutz there was like 7 Arab villages that after 48 one stayed, and people just escaped. So the whole building up of the Israeli identity was on top of a kind of a devastating event for them, for the others. And what I see in Israel, that I mean, there was like a few years ago, 2 years ago, there was this kind of like the occupation movement, as you know, the anti-economy movement, and they were really like trying to gather as many possible people against the economical policies of the government, and the political subject was not talked about. So they really, I was in a few of their gathering. You couldn't talk about the Palestinian-Israeli problem. It was like, if we start with that, we're going to lose everybody. It's going to become a war between us. And what I see now, after this war, that this subject is on the table again. People are talking about it. So there is an anti-political movement in Israel. Today, there's like, just this week, like 43 reserve soldiers refused to serve in the, So these things start to happen. So who knows? Maybe the reality became so extreme that people have to start to realize, to start to voice themselves, you know. And because I think for many years now, the left voice in Israel was erased.
Yeah. And it's also it seems very hard. Like I remember I met this guy who was just like when I came to Ship, he was in the army, and then I think he was in the last year, but he dropped out, and his family would stop talking to him. So he lived at home, like in the north, and he would live with his mother and father, and his mother would probably talk to him, but it was like a shame because he had like the history in the military, so it's so strong. Like even if you would want to not go to the army, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe now it's changing, like you say, but before it's really hard. Like if you're young and you have to say like, no, I'm not going to be in the army, and then you have to sort of face not only your decision but like the whole machine around you.
The moral pressure.
So maybe there's a seed of hope.
Is it the same seed in Gaza or in the West Bank?
So if it's the same?
Yeah, I think so.
The same seed that the people, they really have enough.
They have enough, but I find like after they really have enough, but I don't think they're ready to cooperate. I mean, I think everyone wants to get what they want, not to.
But I don't know, I meet here Palestinians and from West Bank, not from Gaza, and they just want to develop themselves, to be alive, you know.
I know, but they're not there.
Yeah, but it's of course.
Yeah.
But I think before this would not happen. You know, I think there's more. I met because there's all kind of artistic project with Ramallah,
Yeah.
and I start to meet really like young people who they just want to to live, to develop
But most
other.
people just want to leave, no?
And yeah,
So they just now the point is like
yeah.
But what I
I just
don't,
want to get
what
away
I
from
don't
it.
understand.
And I feel also like after
Yeah.
this war now, people were just like they don't even have any hope. But that was just like, of course, in a situation like that. To see them.
What I don't understand, I lived in Iran and we have relatives in
How long
Lebanon,
did you
and
live in
we have family in Israel, and then you know these stories about the Maghreb and the
Yeah.
Egypt. And you know that in every these countries you have a huge generation of young people. They are not interested in all this. They want to be globalizated,
I mean, they just want, yeah.
young people to participate in consumption, to participate in culture, to participate on
Just
why
being like
they
young.
don't go up to a politics world.
But I mean, that's
Why
That's a big
why
thing
don't we
today.
go into politics
Yeah.
here in
If you
those
say
countries?
they just
you know?
want to have
Why
a-
are you not in the
like-
government?
I think you
I mean-
answered your question yourself, saying that they just want to have a normal life, just like consumerism, whatever, westernized. So that means that they're not
Okay.
interested in actually like physically going in to change anything. They just want to have this life. I don't think they have the.
Okay.
Because imagine how big. I mean, if you want to make a change, that's a big thing. Then you will have to.
So
It's
that
not
they
like something-
prefer to leave the places, yeah?
But I just think that a lot of economies,
No,
but
I'm-
not only in those countries. I mean, a lot of economies, political governments are not free really. I mean, it's not that you become a politician you can change things.
No, and I also
You're
think it's.
bound to so many factors that are beyond you.
And what I'm saying is like that's a long process. It's not you're young, like you're 19, 18, and you want to have this life. And not everyone is inclined to do a political change. And
Nobody is.
Nobody- and
I'm
even
sorry.
if- I mean,
I
I
think
met
the
some
only
people-
thing we can do
Yeah.
is not to vote anymore because governments lost their
Yeah.
ability to do
Yeah,
anything.
but Ahmadinejad was the result of such strategies. So
Yeah, but I mean,
the
like,
people they
I'm sure
refused
he's-
to vote. And
Yeah, but I
after
mean,
they
like,
had
normal-
8 years Ahmadinejad.
Yeah, but they would have him anyway because he faked votes before. I mean, you know, it's that. Why do you
Yeah, or
refuse?
Rafsanjani is another-
I mean, refuse vote and refuse and refuse. I mean, to resist governmental legislations. This will be the next thing. But then, okay, you risk your life maybe in Iran. I don't know, maybe in Belgium too. If we start to you know now, yeah, maybe it's going to another.
No, but also because I mean, I just think it's not in their interest. It's like people just want to have a normal life. It's not that I want to make. It's not like I want to change my life, so I want to do a revolution, and the revolution will take me 10 years. So in the end, I'm not young anymore, and so I will never. I mean,
But you know, in this movement in Israel of the anti-political or anti-economical movement, they had a kind of a representative that is now in the government, and he's just a fucking asshole. I mean, he does nothing according to and all those people chose him to be there. Like, quite a quick process, actually, but he's just horrible.
what's his name?
Yair Lapid.
Exactly. It was like
Yeah, this
Kind of
good-looking, Tel
like a
Avivian,
historic-
yes,
yes. And so this nice portrait of himself.
yeah, really, yeah. Oh. I represent the people.
Yeah.
But in another way that we are speaking about these young army people, in another way, my son, he's 19, and he said, after we discussing about the situation in Gaza, he said, I couldn't guarantee if I would be in such situation, they killed my family, they killed my friends. I couldn't guarantee that I would not get an extra. How this situation is like a motor created.
Of course, because it's not, yeah. I can understand that.
And how to
Is this a sign for something?
so
But maybe we have to continue with.
Yeah, but can I something? Okay.
You have to leave, so no?
Can we have for 10 minutes some from the perspective of Europe, because the view from Europe is just I think another view when you are locally there. How do you recognize the European perception of the war? Why is why this perception produce so huge and intense emotional reactions in Europe?
I mean, as much as I'm criticizing the policy of Israel, I get really turned off by this European, I don't know, like total identification with this war, and so like for me it was very strange that it became this like #1 item on news, and everybody talked about it, and everybody criticized Israel, and I mean it was, and then there was ceasefire, poof.
I know, but that's,
gone.
yeah, I think that's horrible. It's like, as you have this intensity, we saw it as like as journalists, you see it, you know? You have like, it's the first of the news first.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have, okay, so then, and then
Yes.
it's like, it's going down,
Yes.
and it's like, but the same things are happening, it's just like this, it's just how it is. Things
So
are
it's
just
so
like,
hyped,
whatever is served to you,
yeah,
it's like, then it goes away so fast again. It's like,
And on the other hand, I think it's
What do you
also,
mean?
I think it's also, yeah,
But I think this was, I mean, I wasn't in Europe, so I didn't see the news, but I mean, I just heard that. But I think this time it was kind of, because it was a horrible war.
it
And
was a
was
horrible
sort of-
war,
So
for
I think
sure,
it
but
deserved all the attention it got.
there are other horrible wars happening.
No, but it was just because, as I,
but it's for me,
because that one was for a month that was happening, and then,
but also
and
these
then there's
two
something
sides I find is the Israeli, which is so called westernized, and the Palestinian, which is more orientalized. I mean, I think these two powers are very attractive at the moment to I don't know, to analyze, to look into them. So
but I don't think, because I think everyone is really fed up with that, because it's been going on for years now. But then when something flares up like that, because I don't think anyone expected it to happen either, like during Ramadan and all this, that there would be another war. And then since, I mean, the
but I
moment,
think there's a threat there, which is for people more, it's touched them more than I don't know, America bombing Afghanistan, because somehow these are two countries that symbolize polarity, a certain ideological polarity, modernism with maybe a more, how could it, oriental sort of.
yeah, because you said it's so westernized.
It was,
now,
and it's almost like it can happen to you, you know, it can happen here that, or let's say in Belgium, that the Flanders becomes a military power against another minority. I mean, I think it's.
But this time, wasn't it also like how it was started? It started with this like the boys who disappeared and were killed and all these things. It sort of built up. It didn't just like happen again. It was just like much bigger, and it wouldn't, because it was like the people who actually got really, I mean, they took it too fast.
Yeah, I don't know.
But regarding on the European reception, how would you describe the biggest error?
The biggest error
on
Error
looking
of the
from
perception
Europe
of
to
it.
the European perception of the war between Israel and Palestine. What is in your, how?
From my point of view, living here,
the biggest error.
I think the biggest error was that actually European came to Israel with a certain notion of being a group, ethnic group, with a very European way of looking at territory. Meanwhile, colonialists colonizing this territory without considering the inhabitants of that place from the beginning.
And
so that's for me. I mean, the ethnicity brought them together, the Jewish sort of tradition. But for me, the way they created politics in this place was very Europeanized,
Yeah, and also
very
like
colonialized.
this way,
And
like actually
now,
looking.
the contemporary view. If now from Europe people are looking at the war and they have their values or their notions, what is the biggest now looking to the war?
For me, or for
If you what do you recognize
as a European?
as both? So you know both sides.
I think that the fact that, but I mean, if you see now what's happened in Scotland, that they want to have independence, and then in Catalonia, and this all the all these ethnical groups, but the fact of that ethnicity can become really demonized, that you create by a certain tradition or historical reference, really otherness, you know. Because if I say Brussels, there's so many ethnical groups living in the same dirty pot, and somehow it's
But
manufacturing
different,
life.
because it's exactly like you say, someone came and they said like, okay, so now we're going to do this stage. No?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Where's it come from?
It's ethnic, it's an ideology or
Fact. Ethnics is the ideology.
It's a fact,
It's
an
an ideology. It's totally constructed. Totally. And I mean, the Jewish ideology is not constructed only by the Jews, it's constructed by the non-Jews as well. I mean, they were raped and chased and isolated for 2,000 years, so of course they become a very strong ethnic group. And that's what happened also in Palestine. I mean, instead of incorporating the Arabian inhabitants in Israel in manufacturing a new country, with double ethnicity or multiple ethnicity or whatever, it created an opposite. So it created a contra. They were not involved in the Zionistic factory, you know. Mm-hmm. They were not considered. So of course they formulate a resistance. So you create by creating your own identity, you create an identity that will resist you. But that's from my perspective of living in Brussels, where it's a mixed melting pot.
Why do you live in Brussels?
Because of that.
Yeah, but why Brussels?
Because it's the only place I found that I can be not be placed. Mm-hmm. Because there's no the power structure is very unclear.
Yeah.
You know, I lived in Berlin. I all the time felt like I'm an Arab. Really, I have to say. In Rotterdam, I lived also. A total Arab. And Brussels, yeah, Arabs are part of. I mean, it's not. It's an environment.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable, and also by the fact that the Islam or let's say Arabs, it's many different cultures, but that it's in Brussels, it's very free. I'm able after a few years to learn how to become part of that culture that I was educated to hate, resist, push away. And I have to say that only the last years I have Arab friends, and I can also be in Arab ceremonies, listen to Arab music without this resentment.
Okay.
And it's a liberating space.
Why do you decided to situate yourself in the Middle East?
It was interesting. I came to do something, and I was fascinated.
And when was the first time you were there? In which country?
I came to Israel in 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
It was the first time.
And then I would be like in Egypt.
And then you get fascinated or interested.
No, it's very interesting. Also as a photographer, I think it's extremely interesting. You have all these extremes everywhere. Everyone's a bit crazy, and there's a lot of stories everywhere.
Either
so
something
just find something like this could be.
But you are always a little bit investigating on the periphery, so by the ultra-Orthodox Jews, and then by the
Actually, initially I was very interested by the Orthodox Jews. I find them still very fascinating. I learned some Yiddish too. But just actually, no, but just the anti-Zionists, actually, that's what.
The anti-Zionists.
Yes, those are what I found this like really nice family. But generally, like speaking, it's nice. Like lately, I work a lot in Iran, and it's nice. I mean, it's interesting because there, everything is sort of, nothing is what it seems to be. You just have this appearances, like, okay, and everyone's like half crazy. And so, I mean, it's nice because they express their craziness more than in Europe. I think. In Europe, things are a bit more. I mean, it's harder to get inside, and you wouldn't find those extremes. Or maybe you would, but it would be more. I mean, the social structures are so different. Like now, this month, I've been like in the Middle East the last. And now I've been sort of, because I have to go to Holland. It's really interesting to come to different countries. I was in Holland, and then I was in France, and then you just have, each country has its like very strong sort of character, but it doesn't really.
Okay, last question, and let's go back to the territory. Did you have anxiety to die?
No.
No? And why not?
No, I don't know. I don't feel. I mean, I don't think about death.
So if you are in the dangerous situation, you feel it out. You don't think about it. And do you have after? Do you have any reactions?
Post reactions. Sometimes, I mean, if there's a situation when I know that could have been very risky and I actually decided to do it, then I think like stupid, idiot, like don't do that because it's not worth it. You know? Because there were some moments in Gaza also with this decision to do something that was really stupid, and then there was this moment where we were sitting like an hour in the car because I was not in my, I mean, I didn't have my driver, I was with some ambulances, no, and they decided to go to this zone where they were firing, and we were standing there for an hour in the middle of the night. And then you're just like, that's really idiotic, because they also shoot on them. Things like that, but then that was my decision. So, and
you?
I mean, you're not, like, consciously not, but then when there's a rocket above the house of your mother, it's, yeah, you hide. When you see it and you hear it, and you want to protect yourself, and that's what also a strange feeling, because so it's an instinct. I think you feel the fear, but you're not acknowledging it because the other feelings are much stronger. The resentment to the war, and the sorrow for so many dead people. So this, the fact that you cannot talk to your brother because he's totally fascist.
Who will win this war?
Huh?
Who will win this war?
God.
Okay. God.
it's the only one who could.
Yeah.
So I hope it.
Didn't they already win, actually? Both sides said already they won. So.
Yes, everybody won. That's happy.
Everybody lost.
Everybody lost. Thank you.
Oh,
How was it for you?
No, you have to push on.
Yeah.
This spinning.
And then you have to name it.
So then
Now you have to name it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going back there, right?
I don't know. I mean, not now. Maybe. Depends if someone gives me work. If I have other work to do in Gaza, I'll go. Otherwise, I wouldn't try it now.
Okay.
But I mean, it would be interesting to see also.
Yeah.
Oh, when are you going back?
I don't know. We'll feel it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I would go back next month, but I.
Yeah.
Just you have some short biography you can send me because I have to make a box about you. So, but in the internet, the informations are too fragmented.
Yeah. Okay. I can send you.
Yeah, could
When
you send
do you
me,
need that?
Yes, because I have to send it tomorrow night.
When
So,
will it be published?
books.
When will it be published?
Next Thursday. Next Thursday.
Wait, is it daily or weekly?
It's a weekly. It's a left wing.
Left wing.
Left wing weekly from Switzerland.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's long. It's more than 20 years, almost 30 years. No, yeah, 30 years.
And you've been working for them for
I was working fixed for about 7 years until since 2005 I'm a freelancer.
Okay.
For the government journalism. That's not possible. Not possible anymore. Yeah.
Cool. Coffee, huh?
So thank you
fair.
very much. But
Thank you.
But how are we doing? Because normally I send a text. I send it to you that you can prove.
It's in German.
Oh, in German?
But I write it in German. How are you doing? And you will change the whole thing. Like
No, we do it together, yeah. It's okay.
With Yola or something.
Yeah. We can. Yes.
But you have time because I hope that I finish it till tomorrow evening. Then it has to be finished on Monday evening.
Sunday.
Yeah.
But you speak German.
Yeah, but to read an article takes like forever for me.
Okay.
Sometimes I publish things in German and then just to read. No, I could try. Actually, I could try. I don't think I have to you. At least I don't have time to do it.
And you have to create a picture. Yes, because could you make selfies, huh? And create a photo. You are both together.
Oh, on the photo of us together.
Yeah, and we queer. Not so.
Horizontal. Okay, yeah.
But and then you can send it to the, and you get money for this.
And it couldn't be two separate pictures. I'm just asking because it could be more simple. Because I think she's busy and I'm busy too. I mean, wouldn't it be easier to know?
You want us together in the same frame?
Yes, it's production.
But and now we cannot do it.
She said to me it could be beautiful if we are both together on a photo.
Yeah, but then you want us to do like a selfie. I mean,
Do you want you take a picture of us?
no, but I mean, like when you say selfie, why does it have to be selfie?
She said to me selfie.
It's the
But it's
photo.
a photo with both of us on.
Yeah, she said to me selfie, but
you
I
need
don't know what it means.
Yeah,
it's
just everybody says
it's
selfie
another
to me.
frame.
Because for me, selfie is
another-
something you do with your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But then I think you have to go with the quality of the.
No, I just think it's strange that she would say selfie. Yeah, okay. But you need this for tomorrow. No.
No.
The picture you can
Monday.
Oh, so maybe then we can have time to do it.
I'm here.
Yeah, because I will have to come and take the pictures.
Okay.
I think the style, because she said to me that
Okay,
you're a
so you
photographer, and you can decide how to create a photo. The only one it must be the high quality for the journal. That's all.
Okay,
But
you can come back.
so that you are free to create it.
Yeah, okay.
So then you can
Okay. So we'll do it.
cool.
Do it someday.
All right.
Yeah, no, because now it's just difficult.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But you're here like you're here like every day?
Yes, all the time.
Ah,
Mhm.
good. So I'll be back.
What you are creating?
Sorry?
What are you creating here?
I mean, the whole space a bit involved in everything, but I mean, in general,
You make it. No,
or me
I
personal.
I know a little bit.
No, here.
You make it
Yeah,
performance?
yes,
or-
this is a kind of an improv sort of group session about to discover who is the most powerful person within the group and then to kill him.
Oh wow.
Oh. As you actually do like some sort of performance.
It's an improv performance. Yeah, with
Why you don't establish?
not established on the.
No, why do you don't establish this on the own?
Yes. Yes.
But I mean, so you basically you start it every day, this, or it just happens by itself.
Normally, should people come,
Yeah.
audience, and then we activate them in different. There's like all kind of spheres, working spheres.
So now like the two people who start coming.
I hope.
Yeah.
Normally we are open already, but probably people come later.
Yes.
And this is another sphere where we have to discuss the relation between art institutes, the Allmend, which is this, and the other bodies within a kind of society, in the culture, like relation culture and the outside. There's a kind of a game that we do it. Identifying the bodies and the relation between them.
Okay.
And what is the questions arise out of this? What is the problematic
Of such a community.
of problematic between, let's say, two art institutes, or between the art institute and the public, or between the concept of an Allmend and the art institute, or to create a problem, and then from this problem to see who are the bodies involved, who are the terms which involved in this. And
How do you have this Allmend, and everybody who is in the Allmend is free to do what she or he wants, but what is the mechanism of inclusion and
exclusion, okay.
How do you handle it?
So actually, when you come here, you are participating. So you're not just observing. You're not just a public. You're activating the space. And
If I'm ready to do it, I can come.
of course,
If you don't know me,
yes.
I can enter it.
Totally.
I can say I want to read my book. I want to make a lecture. I
Yeah.
want to make a
Yes.
performance with my.
You can
with
do
my
that.
text, with my
But
literature.
actually, all what we put here is like half products. It's not a finished
Yeah.
sort of.
So it's
So with your
important.
text, I can take your text and do with it what I want. So there's no authorship on what you're putting in
I
here.
give my natural way.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
I act with you natural. So
Exactly.
I can take your concept that we choose to share, and then we
Yeah.
build him, and I can do something. with it.
Totally.
And this
So-
is the only one condition to
The-
come in.
This is the one. So you are contribute. You are active. So you're not just a spectator. You bring your knowledge into it. I can do with it whatever I want, and you can do with my knowledge wherever you want. These are the conditions, the overall
And
condition.
it works well.
I mean, it starts to work between us, but we don't have enough now intruders. We need public to come in to see how.
And the public can look. The
No.
public is not obligated to act.
If you enter, you act.
Okay.
You are not looking. So we need the public as participants.
And what is the difference between the participant and the public?
There is no difference.
There is no difference.
No. The public
But
is
if the
there,
public doesn't want to participate,
Even
then they
you-
cannot enter.
ah, good.
Out.
And how you create the first group, this photo group who is now here? It's through friendship or through...
Friendship. I mean, Nicholas, he's the first initiator. And he...
The guy who was sitting.
Yes. And he asked a few people to join, and then we came here 1 year ago. for 1 week, and slowly we collected other people from Bern, and also some people that somehow joined. So it was quite organic. So there's half of the artists are from Bern.
And the other from around.
Yeah.
But you always do installations and performances.
Sorry?
You always do like installations and performances.
Yeah. Very much.
And what's the reason that the public don't find a way? Are they a little bit just schüchtern?
Careful or
They're
suspicious.
Closed group.
Maybe. But I think in the evening, no, they will come.
But this is the second day.
No, this is the first day. Yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Because I would love to have it somehow. Would that be possible one day?
Even today.
Too good to be true. Good summary of an experience.
Can you help me? I don't want to stop the I think it should go on, the live stream.
Should go on, yeah?
Yeah, but we have to put it in the other room. Computer, so that the cable won't disconnect. And I will take the camera. Okay.
Yeah?
Wait.
You need another person? Then I fall.
Du bist jetzt eigentlich offizieller Irländer, der auch diese Ressourcen hier nutzen kann. Oder eben auch was reine Ressourcen gibt.
Gibt's noch wieder?
Wir mussten selber bekommen, aber machen wir das fertig für dich gleich.
Wie?
Wenn direkt im Fernseher ist. Also beziehungsweise ist der Computer schon da. Ist sie direkt im
Du
Haus?
musst dir aktiv
Also dieser zweite, der ist jetzt eigentlich auch.
der ist der zweite ist dann.
Aha, stimmt, du hast gesagt, dass du den eigentlich für die Webkamera benutzen willst. Und sonst?
Ich mach mal Ton
Aha,
aus.
haben wir gesagt, vielleicht Jorgos Computer zu benutzen. Oh, I see. No, it's paying euros. It's actually what it's just euros in France. But then we thought, oh, it's pretty much proxy. And then we do euros for the proxy, which is tourists. The cheese is different from Bern.
Okay, Daniel.
That looks really nice. But anytime I want to do it. It's up to you. You're the designer.
No, this is one of the tourists.
It's a nice small, no?
I know.
I need to try. So that's my
Yeah! We're getting ready! Bye bye! I shot the gun, bye bye!
Can I have some papers?
Another idea. Well, I can write one. You know what?
Maybe she's showing them.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
No, I don't think I did want
Hello? I sent this off myself.
Yes.
You need die out. Huh?
Ich muss gerade noch die Karte installieren. Hat was gemacht? Wow, that's so much better. Yeah. Yeah.
My baby Charlie. Ich werde wieder los. Sagen.
Later, I think, because I don't really know yet what the, yeah, I think it's important.
Ich werde atemlos den Soundtrack produzieren. Berücksichtigung des Prinzips des Soundtracks versiegeln. Und beschäftige mich gleichzeitig im Soundtrack 22, 24, 35, werde ich mir durchaus ein Soundtrack 15 in alles Stückchen bleiben.
Ich weiß die Nummern der Soundtracks nicht, aber ich werde mich auf den Soundtrack beziehen, indem ich ein kontinuierliches Geräusch herstelle mit einem Gegenstand aus dem Regal der Ressourcen, während ich gleichzeitig ein fremdes Fremdwort wiederhole aus einem Buch, das ich wenig hören würde.
brauchen einen Dampfer, ich brauche einen Dampfer, und weil diese Sinn das ganz das System ersetzen wird. Genau das Gleiche. Aber es gibt bestimmt auch mehr Aspekte, als dass man solche Dinge ich glaube, das Mehrwert, das gibt, das ist ja Strom aus diesem kleinen Stecker. Ja. Okay. Und vielleicht überhaupt
And when you start,
I'm not selling cheese.
I'm making a thought. I do. I do.
I do. I really do. How do you? Don't you? Because I do. I really do. I will. I mean, I will. Just not now. Yeah. But I should. Would that do? It could. So it might. Yes, I think it might. That might do. Don't you think? You don't? Oh, you don't? Oh, you do not? But you did. You said, you did say, I do. When you said, I do to me, I stood there, gesture. Frozen as I am transformed by your will to perform an act to perform, but one that does not act, does not perform. When you said I do, and didn't do anything. like summer rain. It's your sweet love to be love away. I don't know what to do myself. I don't know what to do with myself. Everything but you, everything with you, and now that we're through, I just don't know what to do. Like a summer rain, and summer rain. But I need your sweet love, real love away. I just don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with myself.
Ich weiß die Nummer des Soundtracks nicht, aber ich werde mich auf den Soundtrack beziehen, in dem ich ein kontinuierliches Geräusch herstelle mit einem Gegenstand aus dem Regal dazu, während ich gleichzeitig ein fremdes Fremdwort wiederhole aus einem Buch, das ich nie kaufen werde.
Just don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with myself. Well, everything for two. Well, you are now that we're through. I just don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with myself. Movies only make me sad. Parties, they make me feel as bad since I'm not with you. I just don't know what to do. It's like a cell room. Separate. But it's your sweet love to be loved away. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with myself. When everything's true.
Super!
Leise ist scheiße.
Only loud art is beautiful.
Leise ist scheiße.
Leise ist
Hey, it's really good. Yeah.
I'm going to do it. It's not a very rich nomination. We don't produce anything.
I only want to be involved in decking. Where's our yacht? Did you try this? Yeah, it really,
Oh, you will come back and you'll sing that.
it really centers you.
I was in a state yesterday afternoon. You.
Well, it is. The Y is the monopoly of the microphone right in front of this Daniel Cox stage. Does anyone have a mode of dissent to declare? Instead, I will read sentences.
What's the surprise?
What is surprise? There have always been pockets of expert judgment nobody knows about. The regional court introduced the term predictions about the performance like a cat preening herself. According to inconsistency, neither you pay or you are out. Prototypes of computers reach the same information devices. Johanna Lier, has been grown into rich, vastly richer since they are best places of many countries that bottom of the heap, little less desperate in the modern age. The public is now shared by the pattern results among 20% of the study on one independent evaluation. The brief suggests we take it as the first existentialism by valid editors. Within even the best formulas, it takes 70 and 85 minutes for pretty clinicians must pretend not to care. Because of the Greeks, the Portuguese, or Irish, believing that the main rule of production is symbolic exchange and death, we have not find truth. Through the audience, though the audience is constituted with large picture windows to frame individual silently sitting in gardens. The view of the Golden Gate Bridge, where the stripper reveals their difference. That dimwit on stage is hidden somewhere as the crucial enigma in the financial age of capitalism. That swabs of which next gratification. Like a vital political project of narcissism, the experts diminish the accuracy of an enigma, a secret. The gaze of the viewer has nothing to do with me, but the get room upstairs. Do you pay or become poor? A senior Western official said. The gaze of the viewer is interrogative and constantly flowering, about 18 inches, and demands her to be eyes. To be the visual high, so that it can be easily inserted to your opportunity, the obvious desire of the patient.
Guys,
No idea. What is the lunch plan? Are we doing it or?
I think now everyone's so much
It's bread and cheese.
Huh?
It's bread and cheese.
I'm wondering if if it might be possible today.
Just Easter on, yeah.
So we rather concentrate on the evening.
Yeah. It was just a question.
Eat your own lunch.
I'll read the night of Is that right?
Today it's eat your own lunch.
Nee, jetzt geht's weiter. Jetzt geht's schon wieder.
What that's about? So geil.
Do we stop the live cam and start it at 3?
Yeah.
I think it's about
do you record these live?